Good afternoon. I would like to call to order the meeting of the Wight County School Board. Today is Thursday, April the 21st, 2022. This is a regular school board meeting. Okay. At this time, we will have roll call from Mrs. Ruitt.
Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Vines, Ms. Tynes,
Here.
Ms. Dial,
Present.
and Mr. Pollock.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Now we will have approval of the agenda or amendments to the agenda. I'm sorry.
So that's okay. I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the appeal for the Learning Resources, TED Ed, Discovery Ed, and McAvee as an action item.
All right. You've heard the motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. At this time, we will ask for a vote.
All right. Get that on here. Okay. Should be coming up.
Okay, the vote is
2-1.
2-1. 2 yea, 1 nay. Therefore, the motion passes. Thank you. All right. At this time, we will have a motion to go into closed session. Mrs. Dowd.
I'd like to make a motion to go into a closed meeting to review the personal report posted on board docs under Personnel tab number 17.1 as authorized by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for purposes of discussion and consideration of prospective candidates of Isle of Wight Public Schools for employment, salary adjustments, contract changes, homebound teachers, supplemental contract, stipend, and resignations of the Isle of Wight County Public Schools employees. And motion to go into a closed session meeting to review the personnel addendum posted on board docs under Personnel tab number 17.1 as authorized by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for purposes of discussion and consideration of prospective candidates of Isle of Wight Public Schools for employment resignations and the teacher termination case number 2022.1 of Isle of Wight County Public Schools employees.
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
You have a motion and a second. There's no discussion at this time. We will have a vote. Motion carries. 3 yeas. Thank you. Okay. At this time, Mrs. Ruitt, are there any requests to speak in closed session?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Otherwise, we're going to reconvene. We're going to go into closed session. Thank you.
Tracy, let me talk to you before we.
Okay, before I get.
Yeah.
I'll leave my stuff here. Take my phone. Good evening. At this time, I would like to welcome all of you to the regular school board meeting for the Isle of Wight County School Board. Today is Thursday, April the 21st, and the year is 2022. We are holding this meeting at Westside Elementary School in the auditorium, and the address for Westside is 800 West Main Street, Smithfield, Virginia. Isle of Wight County Schools is always preparing students for college, career, and life. Again, I would like to welcome all of you out to our monthly board meeting. Thank you. At this time, we will have a motion to reconvene into open session.
I would like to make a motion. The closed meeting was conducted in conformity with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act as required by Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia and certify that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Second motion.
All right, you've heard a motion and you've heard a second. At this time, we will have a vote. The motion passes. Thank you. We will also have Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
About the decision we made.
Oh, okay, got that.
I would also,
Excuse me, I forgot, we need to have another motion, a decision that was made while we were in,
We've amended the agenda. It's been added to 13.2.
okay, no, not, this is a
I'm
personnel.
sorry. Okay.
This is a personnel one,
Okay,
this is
sorry.
Ruud.
I move that the school board uphold the superintendent's recommendation for termination in case 2022-1 and to authorize the chair to issue a written decision on behalf of the school board.
Second motion.
You've heard a motion and a second. At this time, we will take a vote.
And it was Renee and
It's
Vines.
Ms. Dowell and Mr. Vines.
So a verbal, please, Mr. Vines,
Yay.
Ms. Tyne,
Yay?
Ms. Dial,
Yay.
and Mr. Collins.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're back on our regular agenda. Okay, we will move to Mrs. Dowell will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, Mrs. Briggs will come down with Isle of Wight Achievers.
Achievers.
Good evening, Mrs. Briggs, while you're waiting to get to the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Cooprider. Good evening, all. The vision for Isle of Wight County Schools is to create a learning environment that will enable every child to discover his or her unique gifts and talents. The Isle of Wight Achievers section of our board meeting gives us an opportunity to recognize and celebrate our students and staff for their unique talents and gifts. And we are going to kick off tonight recognizing a group from Windsor High School. When I call your name tonight, any of those being recognized, if you'll come up, we have Dr. Coleman, who's going to be joining us up front here, and he will have a certificate and or plaque for you and a Achiever's pin. And while I'm reading, if you would continue facing the board while I read your accolades, and then at the end, we'll have you turn and we can get a picture with the board behind you. And family is welcome to come up and get a photo then. So as I said, with Windsor High, we had several students from the Windsor High School forensics team who competed in the state competition in March. We want to recognize and congratulate them on their success this season. First, we have Allie Martins, who competed in original oratory. Stand right there. You go. Perfect, Allie. It's always great being first, isn't it? Next, we have John Post. And John Post and Trent Taylor, and Trent's not with us tonight, they were in serious duo interpretation. Ethan Phelps, who's not with us tonight, placed second in storytelling. We want to congratulate Ethan as well. Nicely done. McKenna Finley, who unfortunately is not here tonight, actually is the state champion in poetry interpretation. So we have a state champion there. But wait, we still have a state champion with us tonight. Maggie Minardi is also a state champion in serious dramatic interpretation, and she was state champion last year. And the team is coached by Ginger Beatty Riffle. She's not able to be with us tonight. But the forensics team also brought home third place at the state level in Class 2 forensics. And we're so proud of this group. So we're going to have them, why don't you just turn where you are and face the audience? And I think Mr. Elliott's going to take a photo, and any family members that want a
Did you want
photo,
us-
this is your time.
Did you want us to stand?
Yes, please stand. If the board would like to stand, Mr. Elliott will work his magic to make sure everyone is in the frame.
I'll take my mask off for a second.
Thank you all. Congratulations once again. Thank you. Next, we have our Seniors of the Month. Our first Senior of the Month is from Windsor High School, and I'm going to turn around really quick to see if he made it here. No. Okay. So that's okay. It's okay. We know these kids are very busy, but we still want to recognize him. The Senior of the Month from Windsor High School for April is Josh Brito, and let me read something about Josh. Josh rises to the expectations regardless of obstacles he faces. 2 bouts of COVID, and he still managed to fulfill his responsibilities as a Duke. He not only keeps up with his work, but excels and is able to effortlessly integrate back into the classroom environment as a contributing member within his group. Joshua is a high-performing student with a strong work ethic, outstanding communication skills, and overall highly personable. And that's from Chris Johnson, his English teacher. Josh will be heading to Radford University in the fall to study cybersecurity. And we'll see if we can get Josh to join us maybe in May, where we could give him his plaque in person. Okay, but congratulations, Josh. Our Senior of the Month from Smithville High School is Hannah Smith. Hannah is a happy, determined, and hardworking student who gives back to her community and school. She's a member of the Spanish Honor Society and is a leader in every sense of the word. She's always willing to take on extra responsibilities, steps up when needed, and reaches out to other students who may be overlooked. Hannah will be the first person to seek out a new English language learner student to welcome them. In Spanish class, she took initiative and sat next to an English language learner student to make sure he understood instructions and could keep up with the class. She also invites new students to sit with her in the cafeteria. Hannah has served in a number of leadership roles in clubs and in activities at Smithville High School. She's been a lead mentor this school year and is always willing to help out. She will kindly and happily show around new students. Quote, Hannah is a strong advocate for herself and others. She always has a smile on her face and makes others feel welcome. Hannah plans to study psychology, and I have full confidence that she will be a wonderful mentor to youth, and that's from Lana Booth, school counselor. Hannah will be attending Bridgewater College in the fall, and we want to congratulate you, Hannah, and if you turn around, we'll get her.
Happy baby.
You good, Mom? You sure? Okay. All right. Congratulations, Hannah. That's going to actually conclude our achievers for tonight. It was nice having a cheering section, but we appreciate all they've done, and we appreciate the family members who came tonight to support them. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And excuse me, before you all leave, I just want to make a quick announcement. You can stand right there where you are. I guess you all have noticed that we're missing our superintendent, Dr. Thornton, tonight, and there are a couple other staff members that are missing as well. It's not because they're absent from school business. The Board of Supervisors meeting tonight at the same time, and they're also having the hearing for the school budget for next year. So that's where the superintendent and some of his staff, they're at the Board of Supervisors meeting right now. So I just wanted to let you all know that, okay? Thank you. Have a safe trip home. All right, at this time, we're going to have a special presentation, Carrollton Elementary School. The principal is Mr. Brennan. They're so sweet. Aw. Good evening.
Good
How are you?
evening. My name is Jenna Davenport. I'm joined tonight with Michelle Michike and Cassie LeCompte, and we'd like to introduce you to Delaney, Andrew, and Ethan. We are the MIMD class from Carrollton Elementary, and we're here tonight to present our Cardinal Dash Snack Cart project. We started this project back in January to work on a variety of different academic, social, and daily life skills. We've created a short video to show you some of the skills that we've been working on.
Okay. Are we missing one?
My name is Grace. Oh. My name is Tegan. Hi. My name is Hermione. I get. My name is Andrew. How have you built relationships with our school family? We hug and tap him. My bucket is pushing for our car. He comes our reason they always sit. I got everyone this year. That is how I did it last night. I'm ready to go.
You have $2 I owe you. Please remember one here for you and one for you. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I told her thank you.
I'm getting my snack too.
Yeah. I got the thing.
My favorite Thank you so much. I love your aprons. Okay. Wait, and then we just have a box back. Drop the bags off.
Is that one?
Yep, and watch that Delaney gets to put hers in too. Are you going to tell me something?
Yeah.
Good idea.
What's number? Please help me pop myself. One, two, three, drink and snack. For watching.
Do you have any questions for us?
I have a quick question. I think I heard in the video that the staff pays $2 for the snacks.
$1.
Oh, $1.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. That is really nice. I appreciate everything that you all are doing with the students in Wight County Schools.
Thank you.
And this is something that they start off at an early age, learn how to do, forming relationships, friendships, and even how to, transact in math and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else want to say anything? And in the meantime, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to walk up here and I'm going to pay them for my snack, okay?
Yeah, and I'd like to commend the teachers and the parents. You know, I'm the father of a special needs young man who goes to Plan B Academy, so I know how difficult it can be from time to time, but it's also extremely rewarding every time these kids learn something new. So I want to congratulate, the entire staff, and I want to congratulate the kids. This is a great accomplishment, so thank you.
Thank you.
don't need any change. That's your tip.
And we have some snacks for you. Can we come up and deliver them to you?
Right, we had to go online and choose it. I remember that. I don't know if we have to, I don't know if I did that properly, but if Mrs. Ruitt needs to record it, I don't know.
Mr. Brennan is. Mr. Brennan's recording.
Oh, okay, thank you. No, I'm not talking about that. When we give a donation, because, yeah. This is nice, thank you. My little snack is in here too. And this is exactly what I ordered. Dr. Thornton was upset because he couldn't get his Twix, but Ms. Getz said she would take care of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Aw. Yes. Oh, I didn't know our pictures were on it.
And these
Yeah.
are all our bags are, we do pictures, so they match the pictures with the
Teachers, okay.
Those are your bags to keep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it, thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, sir.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I tell you what, if you all send that app back to us, we'll continue to order little snacks for them, and you can just send them to Miss Tracy, and she'll get them to us at our board meetings.
Okay, thank you so much.
It was so cute. Okay, we would like to thank the students and staff from Carrollton Elementary School again. Thank you very much for coming out. And we would also like to thank the parents that came with them. Okay. Give everyone a chance to reorganize. Okay, at this time, this is the moment in our meeting where our public gets to participate. At this time, we're going to have requests to speak on items that are on the agenda. Mrs. Ruitt?
Yes. In accordance to policy BDDH-E, presentations of information on any subject will be concluded at the discretion of the board. No person will be recognized to speak more than once. Citizens scheduled on the agenda to speak will be permitted 4 minutes maximum time for their presentation. Delegations will be requested to limit their speakers to 2. Persons speaking are asked to be specific. State the issues for the board's consideration and attach a copy of your prepared remarks. If you have remarks, they should be given to the board clerk. Please do not approach board members. Any matter relating to specific students will be heard by the board in only a closed meeting. Ready?
Okay, thank you.
The first one we have is Ms. Heidi Schwartz.
Oh, no. Did you want the computer up here?
You go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'm here on the KLB from the other night, obviously. So this certainly has been a long process, one that started on 9/22/2021. On that day, only one board member responded to me when I submitted some items. They said They responded back to me and said, "I received your email and I'm thoroughly researching how this subject impacts all of our schools and how it lines up with state law. I would like more time to talk with our local schools and our superintendent to see how we are ensuring teachers receive professional development and our inclusiveness for all cultures and subgroups. Thanks, Renee Dial." Ms. Dial, when I presented my 30-minute KLB appeal Tuesday evening, you didn't look at my documents that I took time to prepare for the board, and you discarded them on the table as you left that evening. I gave 4 reasons why the apps, especially Discovery Ed, should be removed. They were moral law, character education, the removal by our superintendent for teachers' professional development of Discovery Ed due to the executive order number 1, and then the executive order number 1. State laws and teacher professional development and training are all in the things stated to me on September 22nd, 2021 by you in that email. The one and only email that you've sent back to me. I asked you why on September 22nd this was important, but today, April 2022, they are not. The superintendent has removed half of it from the adults. It just simply boggles my mind why you wouldn't protect the children now first. That's your job as the board in the end. The buck stops with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Ms. Turner.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm speaking on the subject.
Excuse me, would you give your name, first name, last name, and district?
My name is Tatiana Turner. I'm not sure what district I'm Hardy.
Okay, that's fine.
So I'll be honest with both me and my husband having a full-time jobs and 3 kids. I don't have time to thoroughly check my kids' school-issued devices. And I trust that school will ensure that materials my kids receive in school is age-appropriate. However, if valid concerns are brought out by the parents, it should be researched and action should be taken. One valid concern should be all it takes for the school board to take an action. My biggest concern with these apps is not even inappropriate content, but the use of the apps. If it is purchased as a supplemental material for the teachers, did we ask teachers if they have been using it? Can we check app usages? If teachers are not being trained on it and are not using it, then why are we paying for it? Wouldn't there be a better use of these funds somewhere else? All of us parents will love to work together with the school board on making our school system better for our children. And if school members disagree with the suggestions being made, we would ask you to provide us an alternative. Show us facts and data that tell otherwise. I'm sure a lot of parents will be more accepting when we hear that. Our major reason for moving here was great schools. 8 years ago, our school rating was 9 out of 10. Today, it's 3 out of 10. And I'm just looking at the SLA results, which are below state average. If you look at the school profile on schoolqualityvirginia.gov, enrollment rating for elementary schools declined by 15% in just 3 years and 6% on average throughout the district, while Isle of Wight Academy enrollment increased by average of 6%. Our assessment scores dropped by almost 20% on average just within the last 3 years. It is a huge difference. We have to accept that we are doing something wrong and work on making it better. We won't be able to improve it if we can't hear each other and cannot put our differences aside for our kids. What they learn now will develop them as individuals, and it will have a great impact on their future. Let's do everything we can to ensure this impact is a positive one. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you all.
Ms. Vanderbrake.
Hi, Candace Vanderbrake, Windsor District.
Could you pull it down just a little bit? Yeah, there you go. There you go. Thank you.
You got it? Okay, thanks. All right. So I came several weeks ago to discuss the apps and the content that your tablets force our children to see. I was told at that time that it was failure in parenting if parents allow their children to get on school-issued devices at home. I've spent a lot of time considering this, and I believe that this content actually removes our ability to parent. You have removed the tools to parent our children how we see fit. Every child should learn to be tolerant of their fellow students and citizens without a doubt, but every child deals with their own feelings in different ways. Thus, as the parent, it's our responsibility to navigate our children's feelings and questions in the way we believe is the best for them. You do not know my child as well as I do, just as I do not know your children. Every teacher in our school system will agree that every child is different and is at a different maturity level, especially in preschool and kindergarten. Gender identity or sexual preference are tough subjects to broach with any group of people, and especially tough when it's our children, to ensure they learn tolerance and can understand their own feelings. This flat screen is not the right way for our children to learn about gender identity or to get answers to their questions. It's the parent's job, the parent's responsibility. With your apps and your content, you remove our ability and our responsibility. These are market-driven commercial apps that do not allow Alawite schools to filter material based on what we see fit as a community. Within searching for everyday terms, cell reproduction, talent show, police, there are sensitive videos with cartoons poorly explaining sexual preference, gender identity, and police brutality, and more. We have no control over what our children see. My 5-year-old can access transgender cartoon read-aloud books easily with the filters of the apps in place. I'm not asking you to remove the idea that each child should be tolerant, but please do not force every child to learn about their gender identity and sexual preference at the same time in the same way. We do not need applications on the children's devices with material that needs adult guidance, and we as parents and as a school division have no control over the material that can be accessed.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Patricia Williams?
Good evening, everyone.
evening.
I'm Tricia Williams, Carsville District. It's nice to see you all. Students of Isle of Wight County Schools can easily access material in their school library and on their school-issued devices containing anti-police rhetoric, illegal drug use, material that causes racial division that claims that our society is inherently racist, and sexually explicit material with incredibly detailed sexual assault and rape scenarios. And it's extremely detailed. If you've taken a moment to read over it or if you've listened to the presentations in past meetings, I'd probably make some of you squirm in your seats if I read some of this sexually explicit material that is available to my 12-year-old son. Please understand that I'm not trying to raise my children in a bubble. These things are a part of life, and I want my children to learn about them when I feel that it's time. It's my responsibility as a parent to monitor their personal devices, set up filters, and ensure they cannot access these materials that they're not mature enough to access while they're at home. What concerns me now is the apps that are on their school-issued devices that contain this content. I'm a teacher, and I see firsthand how much time that these students spend on their electronic devices per day, and it's a lot. I don't even think many parents realize how much time they spend on devices. With all this time spent on these devices, it's impossible for teachers to monitor the material that's on there, that the students are accessing the way that parents can monitor this material at home. I know that you've stated that parents can request to have these apps removed from their children's devices, and I appreciate that. But what about the children out there whose parents have no idea that this content is even available? I didn't even realize that this content was available until I tuned into the meetings and I listened to Jason Marsh, Candace Vanderbrake, Heidi Swartz, and several other parents. Then I started doing some digging and I was pretty alarmed. We're all different, so we can stand up here and talk about what's appropriate and inappropriate. What I find inappropriate, you might find appropriate, and vice versa. But what it boils down to is this material does contain content that is in violation of the Governor's Executive Order 1. So I respectfully ask you guys to re-vote and remove this from our children's devices. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Martha Jackson?
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
My name is Martha Jackson, District 3. On Tuesday night, there was a vote for an appeal from Mrs. Heidi Swartz on certain apps that she felt that the apps were inappropriate for children for out of Wight County School. I respect her right to challenge what some of these apps for her child. However, there are other parents who have the ability and want these apps to remain on their school devices. Now, once the vote was taken, there was a board member who acted inappropriately, I think, turning to social media, undermining, maligning, and stirring up others with threatenings of courts and other measures. This type of behavior needs to stop. They are dishonest, they are unprincipled, and must be reined in. A board member who uses their supposed authority outside the jurisdiction of the board, your actions are no longer serving the better good of the organization, but instead is based on a personal agenda and what a few feel is right for some. Members' behaviors manifest in many ways to the detriment of the board. It's adversarial behavior, it's nitpicking, and you're strategizing with a particular group. Board meetings have become full of these adversarial behaviors. Please, if you support children, let's work together. Let's don't use undermined attempts to just reach out and hurt your fellow board members. You're supposed to be working together. We are not showing our students what the correct behavior is. Please, I urge you to work together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Laura Fletcher.
Just a little bit. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Mrs. Getz. My name is Laura Fletcher and I reside in the Hardy District. I'm here this evening to speak with you about the issue of parental rights. Parental rights should be at the forefront of every decision made by Virginia's public schools. It was at the heart of Governor Youngkin's election, but is currently being challenged by this board, many in this administration, certainly from those at VDOE, and most assuredly from the Democrat-led Virginia Senate. Parental rights is really at the heart of the app issue you will be voting on tonight. Before I proceed, let me first discuss recent legislation heard before the Virginia General Assembly. Senate Bill 656 was just passed and signed into law by Governor Youngkin. It will go into effect July 1. SB 656 recognizes the authority of parents in that it requires parental notification before the teaching of sexually explicit materials or conversations. SB 656 acknowledges parental rights in that it allows parents to opt their children out of sexually explicit lessons and goes a step further by requiring that an alternative teaching void of the offensive materials, language, and content be offered. The Department of Education must now create a model policy to be voted on by all Virginia school boards. The second piece of legislation, Senate Bill 275, did not pass. It would have required parental consent before allowing children to check out sexually explicit materials from their Virginia Public School library. This bill was killed in the Senate Education and Health Committee. The Republicans in the General Assembly made a stand for parental rights. SB 275 was to give parents more oversight and control over what their minor children can withdraw from libraries. SB 275 was to partner with parents in protecting the innocence of all children, not to stifle liberty, but to aid in protecting. Again, the Democrat-led Senate killed this bill. SB 275 is considering sexually explicit books, is very similar to the issue we face tonight regarding the apps, currently on Isle of Wight County Schools students' iPads. I urge this board to reconsider the wholesale availability of these apps, which are currently being streamed without any guardrails via IWCS students' Clever accounts. There are too many opportunities for children's eyes, ears, and consciences to be seared by such a free flow of information without parental adult oversight. These apps leave children open to adult topics, sexually explicit material, partisan politics, and ungodly agendas. There's no argument to be made in not recognizing the rights of parents to be informed and to take control of their content and materials, making their way at breakneck speed toward their children. Please remove the offensive apps in question, all of them. Let's make a decision as a community to protect the children in our care, to determine we can do better, and to say no to values currently being pushed by the unelected bureaucracy of the Virginia Department of Education and its overlord, the Federal Department of Education. Parents, you do not derive your rights from government, but from God. Do not cede your authority as mothers and fathers to any other entity. Cherish and protect what the Lord has given. Children are a heritage and reward from our Heavenly Father. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collett.
Okay, next is, I think it's Lee Erdman. Sorry.
Good evening, I'm Leanne Erdman from the Hardy District.
Excuse me, what was your last name?
Erdman with an E.
Okay, thank you.
Everyone who stood up here said a lot of what I've actually put on paper, and so I'm just going to go over a few things that people didn't mention. There was a time when school boards were crying for parental involvement, and if COVID did anything, it forced parents back into their children's lives. The fact is, the years of lack of involvement let schools and school boards run over parental rights. And some of the things that have been taught to our children can only be called indoctrination. And some of the things that have been taught to our children could be called immoral and violations of law. And it's something that has made parents very, very angry. I have never had the benefit of being a parent, but I have been a teacher. I have been a child abuse advocate, and I am currently a mentor. And no one's listening to the kids. Some of the kids are offended by the app. Children have become a pawn in politics. We've lost vision, and we need to get our vision back and remember what is important. And what is important is the children and what they need and their parental involvement. We have allowed so many things to go on in our communities, and it's become an us against them. And the school board should be treasuring the involvement of the parents. They shouldn't be our adversaries. They should be our advocates. And the one thing about the vote from the other day, it was 2-2. And that says to me 2 people are playing politics. I don't know who voted. I wasn't here. I didn't ask. But 2 people are playing politics. And 2 people are looking out for our children. So tonight I urge you to do the right thing, the moral thing, and the ethical thing. And vote for our children, vote to remove the app, vote to enforce the executive order. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Timothy Mallory.
Good evening, School Board Chair, Vice Chair, and School Board. My name is Tim Mallory. I live in the Newport District. I just have a few words today. We continue to hear about the parental control and CRT from only a few regarding these matters. Simply put, cultural awareness and the understanding of the differences of people, countries, backgrounds have a correlation in the attitudes and values of everyone. Understanding that our cultures impact and shape how we see the world, no one group should dictate what should or should not be allowed in the educational setting. School divisions must move to view culture as experiences, knowledge, beliefs, and values that affect the lives of everyone in the school building and not a specific group. During the special board meeting, there was some discussion about the educational app. No discussion should be made regarding this app without an honest review and a collaborative committee of educators, parents, and students to be involved in that decision. I've only heard from a few parents, and the board should hear from all. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all
Okay.
for this section.
All right. That's it, Mrs. Ruitt? Okay. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Staff Member, Mr. Eric Cooprider, if he would come forward. Mr. Cooprider is our Director of IT, and I want him to brief you a little bit on these apps, even the devices which the students are using in our public schools daily. Mr. Cooprider, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Do you just want the apps in question or Clever in general? What kind of information would you like?
Well, the three that's pretty much everyone has been talking about. Most of them just been saying the apps or whatever. But do the ones that was on the hearing, that we had the original hearing about.
Okay, so that would be TED Ed, Discovery Ed, and Mac and Via?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so TED Ed was placed on Clever, which, by the way, it gets murky when people talk about Clever. Clever is, in short, you log into one location and it logs in everywhere else automatically for you. It makes it very easy for young students, especially for high school students also, who don't remember the password to 15 different sites. That's all Clever is it's putting it all in one location, and it automatically will save your password for you, okay? So TED Ed was what's referred to as a web link, which is literally just a bookmark to ed.ted.com, I believe. It was put there originally in March of 2020 because lots of things were needed very quickly at that period of time. And at the time it was good, it was used, it was reduced in usage throughout the next 12 months or so. And so when we did a review of how often it was clicked and someone brought up, hey, this is TED Ed, sure, we can remove that, no problem. It wasn't clicked very often. All right. We also did a Discovery Ed was added, I believe, at the beginning of this school year. Now, in IT, we don't review the content. We make things work. Instruction has a committee that gets together and actually reviews content. Now, obviously, something as large as Discovery Ed, they probably went through it for, I think it's 12 or 13 people that go through all these apps as teachers request them. They probably went through, I mean, if each reviewer went through 50 videos, they probably hit less than 1% of the total. It's a lot of videos on Discovery Ed. Now, it is a national program, and then it was approved. It was sent to me by instruction to add it in K-12, as long as it was a reviewed class, meaning the intent of the program is that a teacher will assign an assignment directly to a class of students. The student will then watch video, and I can't remember, do they actually answer quiz questions there, or do they do that within Canvas? Ms. Getz? They can do it within, okay. So they can answer questions saying that they understood what they just watched, I believe, is what I'm hearing. And then once they finish their assignment, they go on to, the next item. Mac and Via, as far as I'm aware, has been around for quite a while at Smithfield High School. Might be one other location as well, but I think just Smithfield High School. It is just an ebook platform, meaning you can check out a book that the school has rights to use either through purchase or through free use. And it's kind of like a digital library. You know, you can watch it on a Kindle, you can read the book on an iPad, you can do it on a computer. But there would be a limited number of checkouts depending on the number of licenses you have for those books. So that's what Mac and Via is. Mac and Via is a book platform. Think of it the same as your local library, but just digital.
Okay.
All right. As far as usage statistics, as I said, TED Ed was used a lot in the beginning, but when we found that when teachers were assigning or wanting students to watch videos off of TED Ed, it wasn't through Clever necessarily, which just brought you to the large homepage. They were actually putting a link directly into their assignment saying, go watch this specific video on, you know, World War II discussions or whatever the TED Ed discussion happens to be. And so because we saw that usage drop so significantly, when instruction said, hey, just pull it, you know, nothing to me, I'll just pull it. Discovery Ed, our usage statistics on Discovery Ed right now are about, I want to say 57% of teachers use Discovery Ed, most heavily in secondary, even though I believe Carrollton is actually the third highest usage school. But if I went and checked, it's probably Westside's number one, and I'm making assumptions just off of memory. Westside's probably number one, Smith High's probably number two, middle schools, Carrollton, very much based on enrollment, honestly.
Okay.
So that's what I know about those. Now, is there any other questions I can answer in regards to any of these processes or anything from the IT side? Now, obviously, if it's the content itself, I would ask that you ask Ms. Getz.
I'm going to get to Mrs.
Okay.
Getz. The other thing I wanted you to, if you could brief just a little as far as you can go, because I know IT, they have security, they have their security levels as well. If what you can share with the public as far as Isle of Wight County Schools on a daily basis while the students are in school, what type of security there is about them getting into these apps, search engines, whatever we have for them for instructional use with their devices.
Okay, so with iPads and MacBooks, we use one program that's really built more for Apple devices. That program is set up, and I believe I went through a presentation a few months ago actually about it. So that program is set up to filter all devices on, you know, the billion or so websites that are generated every day. It tries to do it very well. It is not 100% effective. However, we do make changes every single day that we find something that needs to be changed. Okay. That process, in case you're curious, if a teacher sees that a student has gone to a website that is not being blocked for whatever reason they feel it should be, they put in a work order. That work order goes directly to the principal for approval. Principal looks at it, says, yep, this should probably be blocked. They hit yes. It goes to instruction. They hit yes, and it finally comes to me, and I do it. So it's very quick to just straight out block a website. Okay. Those filters are accessible, are working both at home and at school. Okay. Again, not 100% effective, but we work very hard to make sure it is as close to 100% as we can get it on a daily basis. The Chromebooks, which are between 3rd grade and 6th grade, have a different system on them because one is for Apple and one is for Chromebook. It is very similar to the one we use for Apple, where it does filter both at home and at school, and there are different rules. When they're at school, they can't access games, they can't access social media on both systems. They can't access Netflix, but when they're at home, they can, unless a parent choice or an administrator choice says, would you please add this person to the restricted, which we refer to as the penalty box, which restricts them down even more. So it's kind of like they're at school all the time. They can only get to, non-social media, non-games, so education, hopefully health and those sorts of categories. So that's the filtering that we have set up. Okay. And that's a constant thing. I was reading the other day that something like 412 hours of YouTube video is added every minute. So that number has probably changed since that statistic that I read, but I mean, that's a lot to have to keep up with. Currently, we do allow YouTube at school and at home. That's an instructional choice. However, we do put what's referred to as moderate level restriction on it, meaning if anyone has ever hit the report abuse button on a video, it should pull it off within 24 hours as soon as somebody gets a chance to review it.
Okay.
So we're really doing as much as we can from the IT side to whatever decisions are made, we support.
Okay.
So I have a question also.
Yes, sir.
So then, what you're saying is true, and I know it is. Say, for instance, we have a student at home, and he are in school, and he pulls up YouTube. He wants to access Discovery Ed through YouTube, see one of the videos. Are they able to do that, even if we remove it from our system? Can they go to YouTube and pull up a Discovery Ed or McKen VA through YouTube?
I think it would depend on the video that's in question. YouTube has a lot.
Yes, you can.
Discovery Ed owns their content, though.
Right.
Now, some of that is also free use, which means it may be on YouTube.
Right.
But the stuff that they actually own, they would not be able to access anymore if we pulled them out of that. Like, it would block the Discovery Ed owned content or anything that they license specifically. YouTube is YouTube, though, so if you're allowing access to YouTube, we definitely pick up a lot of alerts, and the principals will agree. You know, hey, this might want to be looked at, and if it's a problem, we start blocking like crazy. But
And the reason I asked that question, because if they can access it, then it would be useless to remove the app if they can still go to YouTube and pull it up and access
well, that's what,
it.
it would depend on the video specifically. I can't give you a better answer than that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions for Mr. Cooper?
But I would add, Madam Chair, with eMedia Virginia, that is available through PBS, so anything there would be available through Google.
Okay.
Yeah. So eMedia Virginia would be different.
Right.
That's mostly public use type stuff.
Right.
Again, there's some licensed stuff on there, but it's not anywhere near as much as Discovery Ed. And then McInVia is, again, it's a digital book platform, so it's really just a question of if we remove the app and block the app, and you also start going even further, it's really just, are you going to remove the books entirely for access from every direction? As far as I can look at it, I mean, McInVia is literally just a digital book platform. There's nothing really much to it other than that. The content could be curated whichever direction it needs to be curated. It's just kind of like a digital library.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any more questions for Mr. Cooprider? Thank you, Mr. Cooprider.
Yes, ma'am.
At this time, Mrs. Getz, you can sit right there and give us a briefing on some of the instructional things that the teachers will be doing in their classrooms with the students with some of these apps and search engines. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Madam Chair. A few things I would just like to point out. TED Ed, as we've discussed, and Mr. Cooprider said, it was removed earlier in the year. And that was after we had 3 parents express concern about TED Ed. We looked at the possibility of removing it from individual devices, which proved difficult. We looked at the usage. We decided, let's go ahead and remove it. And that was after a few concerns that were expressed. I would also like to point out that, and I mentioned this previously in some of our meetings, but Discovery Ed has put an additional filter in place at our request. And they are continuing to communicate with us and to ask us our needs and to look for additional filters that they can do on their end. So we are continuing to work with them. It's not a done deal, but they have put an additional filter in place. Also, eMedia Virginia, it's going to be launched May, June with their additional filters in place, again, at our request. And these are platforms that are used throughout Virginia and the nation. And we went to them and asked them for additional filters, and they have responded. I would also like to say that, you know, Discovery Ed, this is our first year of implementation. And it is videos, but it's also activities, there are games, there are virtual field trips. So there are other things that our students can access. As with any implementation, we're going to monitor it. We're going to seek teacher feedback, we'll seek, feedback. If it proves to not be something that our teachers want, they don't see value in, then we wouldn't continue with it. But it is the first year. We've just begun. Also, with any resource that we purchase, whether that is your traditional textbook or a virtual resource, there are going to be items in there that are aligned to the Virginia Standards of Learning. There are going to be items in there that are not aligned to the Virginia Standards of Learning. That's any resource we purchase. And our teachers are excellent at knowing what their standards of learning are and what age groups are appropriate for certain material. So our teachers would be able to view the content, they're going to vet it, they're going to determine, does this align with the standards of learning that I am teaching at my grade level? If it isn't, then they're not going to use it in their classroom. And I'll say many of the items that have been discussed probably are not appropriate for certain grade levels and certain subject areas. They're not even in the Virginia Standards of Learning. So our teachers aren't going to use them as a resource in their classroom. They're not going to assign it to a student to use because it isn't appropriate. So our teachers are going to do that just like they would do with any resource. And also, you know, if you go on Discovery and you search a topic, anti-racism was brought up, transgender's been brought up, yes, you are going to get items in there. But if you were to use Google, and all of our students have access to Google, and you were to Google transgender or anti-racism, my guess is you would get far more and probably far worse than you would get on Discovery Education. But again, our teachers aren't using those items if they're not connected to the Virginia Standards of Learning. And then lastly, I just want to point out that it is parents' choice if they want their students to have those apps. We can remove them at parent request. It's fairly simple now. Fill out the form, hand it into the principal. The principal may have a conversation with you as a parent, but they are going to ultimately send it to Mr. Cooprider and it will be removed. Parents can also choose not to even allow their child to have a device. So if you don't want a school-issued device, you don't have to accept it. That's all I have to say. If there's any more questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Ms. Getz? All right, thank you, Mrs. Getz. We appreciate that. I want to say this as well. I got quite a few emails this week. I even got a couple, I think, last week. And tonight we've heard a lot of speakers that came forth, and they were asking to remove these items from the devices. But I wanted you all to know, the public to know that's listening, there are a lot of parents that also emailed us that could not be here tonight for different reasons. And I'm just going to say they were for keeping them on the devices. And they are saying as well that they're expressing their rights as a parent. So it's both ways. Parents to say no, parents to say yes. But we do have procedures in place. If you do, like Mrs. Getz just said, if you want them to be removed, Mr. Cooprider said it as well. And if that's the case, you can just contact the building administrator, the principal, and they will give you the forms to fill out. And it can be done very quickly. Okay, any other questions or concerns? All right, at this time, we have board member committee reports and information. Do we have any board members that have any reports?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Collett?
Madam Chair, I've got two things to discuss. First, on April 7th, I was given a tour of Westside Middle School from Miss Buggs, Smithfield Middle School from Miss Buggs. The students and staff were great there. The self-discipline among the students was something I have never seen before. It was just incredible. And I did find that there were probably a few nice places there we are going to need to invest some money in the near future. A technology lab and a drama room. And the drama room just needs to be set up so they can do adequate rehearsals. So I think in the next year or two, we might be seeing some requests there, and I think that would be a good thing. And the second thing is I attended the webinar on non-renewals and reassignments presented by our attorney, Pac, and his colleague, Ms. Stacy Haney. It was presented in a very easy-to-understand way, so Pac, I really appreciate that. And I have sample letters that we can use in the process if the chair needs them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collick. And if you have some sample letters, you can pass them on to Mrs. Ruitt, our clerk, and she can file them if we ever need them. Thank you. Any other board members?
Yes. On April the 5th, I believe, me and Mr. John Kolick, we visited the bus garage. And as we took our tour of the bus garage, we found the conditions deplorable. You know, we walked through the garage and we talked with the mechanics, and, you know, we are focusing on some things. There are some things that are very important. We got tools laying on the ground. We got roofs off of buildings, things that have not been addressed. And but we are addressing these issues. Me and John, we made a list of things that just walking through. You know, new tires outside, no coverage, tools. These are things that we need to focus on. 3 mechanics they're working. 40 buses, I was told, were in repair. They don't have enough mechanics. They're being able, telling them they have to drive the buses and things of this nature. These are things that we have to look at. We discussed that with Mr. Kolick, and we're trying to get a plan in place now. They desperately need a new building out there. We need a bus garage. We only have 1 bay that we can put a bus in. 1 bay. And that's a problem. And I believe that these are things that are not being looked at because we got so much other stuff that's going on that we need to look at as a community. And our mechanics were promised a raise. Their raise was not retroactive when the bus drivers got theirs. So we almost had a walkout. And you don't know, so I'm going to tell you. That's not pretty. If we don't have anybody to fix our buses, how are our kids going to get to school? So this is something we really need to look at. And really we need to address this. Our bus garage is in dire straits, and we need to get some funding to that bus garage. When I said we need a garage, we needed it yesterday.
Thank you. Any more?
I would just like to add a little bit to that, because Mr. Vines has really been on the forefront of this. And one thing that I think, Mike, you might have forgotten, we walked into one shed, and this is very important, but it had a lot of equipment, if you will, that was, or supplies that looked like they were bought brand new 30 years ago. Plumbing supplies, electrical supplies. I think we need to go in, we need to pull all that stuff out and find a way to get rid of it in a way that we can at least recoup some of the money back for the system. But that's a dangerous site out there right now, and as Mr. Vine said, it is not conducive to keeping our fleet running properly. And we do probably need a few more employees, but the garage probably built in the 1930s or 40s. It is not anything near what we need. So I hope that we can put something together, get a good proposal that we could bring before the school board, and hopefully we can figure out a way to get exactly what we need that's we're gonna be able to work for the next 30 years. Okay. Again, Mr. Vines, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collick and Mr. Vines. Ms. Dahl, did you have anything? Okay. I know I've been on this board for, a few years, and if there are other former board members out there, they know that bus garage, it's not something that just happened. We've had concerns over the years. We've tried to get them, the transportation department, a new building, which they do have the new building. Those things take time. We replace buses. That's a lot of our transportation funding going with replacing and getting new school buses. If you notice, Isle of Wight County is a very large county, and we have to transport quite a few children across this county. We put a lot of miles on our buses. So if there is an issue at the bus garage that has not really come forth, that some things we already know about, we are trying to get there, okay, and take care of those things. It's not that we are just out there ignoring the issues. We're getting there. The most important thing is to get the instructional piece done. Transportation is part of the instructions, but we will get there. And I just want all of you to know that. It's not like we're just forgetting it. You're just out there on your own. That's not what it's all about. As soon as we get the funding, again, I'll tell you, this is where our superintendent and staff tonight at the hearing trying to get funding for us. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item, and that's 13.2, which we had an amendment at the beginning of the meeting on our agenda. And the item 13.2 is an action item. We need a motion. Yes. And let me tell them a little bit before you go there, Mr. Vines. Last Tuesday past, we had a public hearing with a parent that wanted to remove some things from the students' devices. And sitting here tonight, you heard that. Okay, so at the end of the hearing, we voted. And the vote was tied 2 for, 2 against. According to our policies, because we did not have a full board in attendance at that particular meeting, at the next school board meeting, which is tonight, Thursday night, we have to have that vote again. And if you notice, we still only have 4 members. And if you're just coming in, the 5th member is not here due to a personal illness, but they plan to be with us in May. And if you ask the question, well, why don't you wait until May? We have to have the vote tonight according to policy. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Vines?
Before I make this motion, I just want to have a little discussion because we've heard a lot of talk tonight with the public speakers, and I heard you and I feel you. And before I make this motion, I want you to know that I make this motion not based on the governor's EO1 executive order, but as a parent. But it's what I feel that is right. And I do feel that there are divisive materials in Discovery Ed, in McKinney-VA. I look through it as being a parent. Some of the things I would not want my child to see. I would not want my child to look at. And so, with that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we as a board remove Discovery Ed and McKinney-VA from our school systems.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we hear a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. At this time, did anyone have any discussion on that before we move to a vote? If not, at this time, we will have a vote. Thank you. Okay. Is the vote up? I can't see it from here.
No, not yet.
Can you, it's small up there, can you, what is it?
2 nay, 2 yay.
Okay, the vote is 2 nay and 2
Same
yay.
as Tuesday.
And this is a tie vote again, and because it's a tied vote, then the plan that we have in place, the policies we have in place for the devices will stay the same. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have financial with Dr. Coleman.
Right. Right.
Good evening, Madam Chair, school board
Good evening.
members. Due to Mr. Kepnes being at the actual Board of Supervisors, I'll be taking over for him tonight. Hopefully I can do a great job as he does every month. First, we'd like to go over the actual, for the March financial reports, the check registry. Now, I believe that you have had adequate time to actually see the check registry for the month of March, but I did want to point out 3 items on the actual large ticket items for the check registry. That is going to be 5 individual purchases that are large ticket items. Now, each one of these purchases was purchased around the start of the school year, besides one. Now, due to the nationwide inventory issues and delivery shortfalls, we've just received these items and have closed them out. So that's going to be the Bluebird bus sales, the Sunny Merriman, as you mentioned earlier, Denver Equipment, Dell Computers, and Electronic Systems. Those are the 5 items that are large ticket items I definitely wanted to point out to you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions concerning any large ticket items on the check register?
Any questions? Okay, you can continue.
All right. Now, just financial reports. Next will be the actual, it's the financial reports. I'm sorry. No problem. Next, we'll inform you of the financial report. Okay, we are at 75% of the actual total budget expended or encumbered at this time. This is consistent with 3 months of being left in the 2021-2022 school year allocation. Now, last year, budgeted or encumbered during last year was around about 70%. Now, at this time, we're at 77%. Well, I apologize. At this time, we're at 75%. But if we look back before COVID, it would be during the 2019 school year, it would be around about 77%. So right now, we're falling right in between.
Okay.
So we're right on time. Any questions concerning the actual financial report for the month of March?
No. Any questions from the staff? Okay. You can continue, please.
Yes, ma'am. All right, now, all right. There it is. Next will be the CIP carryover request. Now, as you can see in front of you, we have $197,444.22 remaining from the 2020-2021 Capital Improvement Program Maintenance Funds. Now, this is an action item. We're going to have a motion to approve the carryover of capital maintenance funds from the 2020-2021 school year in the amount of $197,444.22 and authorize the superintendent to request the appropriations from the Board of Supervisors. Now, historically, we spend probably $250,000 a year from the actual CIP. If you look right on the actual form here, you can see what we're proposing to use this carryover money for. As you can see, we had 2 issues that occurred that we couldn't actually plan for, both dealing with AC, one at the Carrollton Elementary School with the temporary units and the other at Georgia Tyler Middle School. So these are the funds that we're going to request from the Board of Supervisors in order to make sure that we can follow through with that. Are there any questions concerning the carryover funds?
No.
All right. Next, 14.3, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, 14.2 is an action item.
I apologize.
So we're going to have an action before you go to the next.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
All right, you've heard the report coming from Dr. Coleman about the carryover funds for $197,444.22. What's your pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the carryover of the capital maintenance funds from the year 2020-2021 school year in the amount of $197,444.22 and authorize the superintendent to request the appropriation from the Board of Supervisors.
Is there a second?
Second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor that we, to approve the carryover funds for maintenance and authorize the superintendent to request their appropriation from the Board of Supervisors. At this time, we will take a vote. That's all yay. Mrs. Ruitt, all yays?
Yes.
I can't see it from here
Yeah,
because
it
it's
is
small.
4 yeas.
Okay, all right. Our motion passes 4 yays. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Coleman, you can carry on.
All right, thank you. Next, 14.3, we're going to take a look at the benefit rates for 2022, 2023. Let's go right there. I'll just leave it right there for a second. All right. The clicker is right here. All right. Well, Madam Chair, I want to start off by explaining, after speaking with consultants, we have the consultants for the healthcare and the healthcare rates. We've learned that healthcare rates are going to increase by 5% to 10% overall nationwide. As you know, we are self-insured, and IWCS maintains its own fund balance. October 1, 2019 was the last increase in employer or employees' rates. In the previous month, the fund balance was at $700,000. Being self-insured, we like to keep the balance around $1 million to ensure that we have the funds to cover if anyone gets sick or if any drastic items occur. Now, we are proposing a small increase to ensure we have the funds to pay our employee claims. As you know, this is critical. All right, as you can see, and I would love to use this pointer, but the TVs are non-reflective, so it won't actually happen. All right, as you can see, the medical monthly rates by the employer increase. Now, based on whatever option that the employee chooses, this is what we pay. This is what we pay. This is what IWCS pays for the employee choice. As you can see, the medical plan type is to your left.
Okay.
All right. We have the FY22 rates. We have the proposed FY23 rates. And as you can see, just for the employee, it is raised $51 for just the employee. And you can see the plan types going down the left-hand side on my left. All right, I'm going to flip to the next slide. As you can see, the medical monthly rates by the employee increase will be on the medical type plan that they choose, and the FY22 rates, the FY23 rates. Now, this is based on whatever option the employee chooses, and this is what they'll pay for, of course. Employee, the employee children, employee family, and the employee spouse. So FY22 rates, for example, the employee was paying $72. Now they would pay $76. This is per month. Just to make sure that we understand, this is per month.
Okay.
If there's no questions concerning this, we'll go to the overall cost analysis. Now, this is just an example of an average step increase. What we wanted to do was we wanted to pick a step that a lot of the employees do have, and it's step 17. So on step 17 in FY22, the salary, the base salary that we have is $56,154. On step 18 in FY23, with the increase, it will be $59,998. Now, that is a 6.84% increase in the salary. But let's look at the increase with the insurance added on. For a family plan, and we just picked family plan in FY22 was $570. Now in FY23, it would be $613. Now that would be $43 a month. Of course, it's $516 for the entire year. $516 extra entire year. Now with that stated, it's actually, when you look at it and take off the actual increase with the insurance adjustment, it actually comes down to a 5.92% interest rate. So we still have a 5.9% raise increase for that. So I just wanted to make sure we went through the details. I know that in the past, even with myself, you know, sometimes you might get a raise, but then healthcare costs rise and you say, well, where did the raise go? So I just wanted to make sure that we actually covered every step of that. Now, I'm showing this to you this month so you can maybe vote on this next month. We'll definitely be asking you to take action on this next month. So are there any questions or any information that you may need to make a decision for next month that I can take down and take back?
Have you all had an opportunity to share this with the employees?
No, ma'am, not
Okay.
at this time. Not at this
Okay.
time.
Because I was just wondering, how do they feel about it? Feedback from them? If they were okay with, the little...
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that down, and of course, I'm going to report that back, and then we might can work with that when I take it back to Dr. Thornton or
Okay.
options from the school board.
Okay, because if it's something we could do to help, I'm not saying we have it because the budget has already been sent in, but,
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
No problem at all.
And Madam Chair, just to point out, the school division is assuming the large majority of the
Right,
share.
right, they
And
do.
doing our best not to pass on
Anything to
a
the
lot to
employees.
the employee, and so that the employee still gets a nice,
Nice.
healthy raise.
Because they're getting 5-point-some% still.
Yes,
And that's
yes,
pretty much
ma'am.
what we ask across the board, 5%.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for you, Dr. Coleman.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. At this time, we have Mr. Christensen. Mr. Christensen, I welcome you tonight.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I almost said Dr. Thornton, Mrs. Getz. So I'd like to present the operations updates for the month of March and just highlight a few of the items that we've recently renovated. This is going to be one of them. This is the Smithfield High School. It's an ADA accessible playground. So as you all are aware, a lot of work is being done around the county with transforming many of our play areas to make them more accessible for our students with special needs. Smithfield High School was a bit of a unique situation because we didn't have a playground to start with, so we built from scratch and really designed it from the ground up. And when I say ground, I literally mean the ground, because if you can see that blue flooring, that's a huge need for accessibility for these play areas. If you think about the traditional mulch that you would see on a playground, it's already setting up obstacles for students, specifically who are wheelchair bound. So this is a very, very brand new and accessible playground that we just got open at Smithfield High School. We're able to snap some pictures of our students and staff out there enjoying it in the beautiful weather. So just really exciting that we were able to get that finalized and the students are out there and enjoying.
Nice.
I did want to give everyone an update on the Georgie Tyler HVAC situation. There's been some moving pieces with that here recently, and I want to make sure we're all up to speed with the most recent updates. So the temporary unit is up and running. And now when I say temporary unit, we're not talking about the portable units like we have at Carrollton. This is a temporary unit that was actually built into the current system. So there aren't the individual units in the classroom. It's tied in to the current system. That is up and running, so that that building does now have the air that it needs, and that it will need more and more here as the days get warmer and warmer. To get us through that intermediate time, we actually went out and purchased 35 fans to get us through those warm days. We had several units that were moved from Carrollton. We relocated them on a temporary basis. We had fans blowing all over that building, doing everything we could while that temporary unit was up and running. So thank you to everyone at Georgie Tyler. I know we had a few days there that we really had to work together and work overtime to make sure those conditions were adequate for our students and staff, and it was really a group effort to get that done. But luckily we're in a much better situation now, and then in the meanwhile the permanent fixes will be moving forward. They're already starting the prep work for that so that we can complete that work over the summer.
Okay. Thank you.
And lastly, I wanted to give an update on some emergency management updates that we've had here recently. A couple of recent campus walks have been conducted, Smithfield Middle School and High School, with Will Drury, who works for the county, the Emergency Management Department. He's been really, really wonderful with coming to the schools, walking them with us, being present during drills. We had a few procedures that were actually changed at some of the schools with the tornado drills specifically. Just kind of coming in with a fresh set of eyes. You know, with the COVID restrictions, a lot of the procedures kind of got shifted around a little because you don't want to put large groups together. But now we're kind of looking at it with a set of fresh eyes, and we're able to come up with some new ideas and ways to keep our kiddos safe during some of those drills. So big shout out to Mr. Drury and his team. They were also able to meet with some of our school representatives afterwards to have debriefs, talk about what went well, what could have gone better. Those have been really productive meetings for us to have with him and our teams as well, and our schools are updating the crisis manuals based off that feedback. And we're going to continue to work with Mr. Drury and his team throughout the year to kind of make sure that he is present with those drills, and we're doing everything we can to make sure our students and staff are safe.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that
Any questions at all on that before we move on to the next item, because that's also going to be me.
No, I don't have any questions on the next item, but I did want to elaborate a little bit to the parents. What you were saying about the HVAC systems, Georgia Tyler and Carrollton Elementary. Georgia Tyler, like you said, you had temporary air in place. But Carrollton Elementary, we're going to be having some hot days probably from now until the end of the school year. And I just want to let the parents know we're doing all we can do. No, the air conditioning will not be fixed at Carrollton Elementary before the students get out this year. And the reason why they cannot work on it and get them temporary air like they have at Georgia Tyler is because of the uniqueness of that building. All of the students, staff need to be out of it in order to go in to do the repairs, and they will be done over the summer months. So if you're a parent and you have a student at Carrollton Elementary, consider on those hot days when they leave in the morning, could be a little cool, layer them in their dress so they can take some items off to cool down in the classrooms. And the staff will monitor those very hot days if they get too hot and make other decisions if they're needed.
Yes, ma'am, very well said, because it is a very unique situation there at Carrollton. That's why we have those individual units in there, and they are blowing. I mean, they are definitely keeping those rooms cool. It's not an ideal situation, we know that, but just as you said, Madam Chair, that work that needs to be done to replace those mechanical pipings, which is what we're going to be speaking about next, it has to be done over the summer. They've got to get up into the roof and all of that. So in the meantime, we're making the best we can with the situation we were dealt, and the temporary units they're cranking, so they're definitely keeping the rooms cool.
Okay, I just wanted to let everybody know that we're not being negligent, just forgetting it, but that's the situation.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, so next up, I did want to discuss Wing D of Carrollton, the mechanical piping. But actually, before I get into the Wing D, I also wanted to discuss Wing E Echo, because we had some recent updates to that situation as well, and just to make sure that you all are aware of the latest on the repairs to that wing. We have just gotten that IFB, the invitation for bid, approved by our attorneys. So we will be getting that out to bid in the next 24 hours with an aggressive goal of getting those bids in, approved again by our attorneys, and then brought to you all, the board, so that the work on Wing E could potentially, fingers crossed, also take place over the summer. Okay. So we're still a ways there. It's a very aggressive timeline, but just to kind of keep you all updated, you'll be hearing more about Wing E Echo here in the next few months, and we're really looking to move quickly on that to get as much work done over the summer as we can. As far as Wing, I'm sorry.
No.
Okay. As far as Wing D Delta goes, we did complete the bid process there. All of those bids came in. We went through. We are working on the contract now, again with the attorney. But before we actually move into entering into an agreement with that company, we did want to request from the board a motion to approve with that company retrofit so that we can move forward to get Wing D scheduled and replaced over the summer.
Okay. And the cost, just tell us the cost so they can hear it.
Yes, ma'am. The cost with retrofit is coming in at $314,700.
Okay, you hear, this is an action item. We'll wait till Mr. Collick gets back. Mr. Collick, while you were out, Mr. Christensen said we have the company that they want to go with to do the repairs on the piping on Wing D at Carrollton Elementary is retrofit services. And the cost would be $314,700. And this is an action item.
I would like to make a motion to approve replacing the mechanical piping in Wing D at Carrollton Elementary School through Retrofit Services Incorporated with a cost of $314,700.
Second.
You have a motion and a second that we will use the company Retrofit Services, Inc. to do the repairs on Wing D at Carrollton Elementary. At this time, will you vote?
Four yes.
4 yeas. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Christensen.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay. And now we have Dr. Coleman back again with update on New Hardy Elementary.
All right. Gotcha. All right, we're going to jump right into this, Madam Chair, School Board members, if you don't mind. And this is the drone featured once again. So I'm going to show you some highlights from exactly what's going on at New Hardy. Now, one thing that, Mr. Cooper already told me I was going to start. And one thing I want you to notice, it was April 4th that this actual drone shot was taken. Now, with that stated, a lot has changed since then. So if you actually drive by the site right now, it's fine. If you actually drive by the site right now, it's a lot of changes have actually already have taken place. All right. So the first thing that you're going to see to your upper left is the actual construction project trailer. And that is there. Everyone, we have in weekly meetings, we have the monthly meetings, different things of that nature. Across from the actual construction trailer, you will see right here, you have a lot of the concrete piping. Now, this is very important just because of the fact of all of the material shortages and different things of the transportation shortages that we're facing. So what we're doing is storing a lot more materials on the site so we don't have to slow down. And right now, I will say once again, we are still moving right on time for June 2023. This picture is showing more of the actual, oh, that's nice. All right. We can still see it. This picture that we're just at was showing more of the actual platform of where the school is actually going to be built at. So this is the main actual lobby when it comes in, the main hall, and this is going to be Wing E. The parking lot right here, we actually are cutting this parking lot in half. The staff at Hardy Elementary School has been extremely flexible in working with us because once again, it's all about storing materials so we don't have to wait. Some of these materials are lined up to come in 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, but if we can get them now, we need to get them and store them right now so we can actually move forward. Ms. Denton and the staff once again are doing an outstanding job with the flexibility. What you see right here is the actual new parent drop-off area. Buses will come in and actually drop off the students right there. So you're looking at the front of the building right in this area. So you can see the actual curbs, the subgrade, and everything. And you might go by there today and see that everything's actually already completed with the drop-off area. Next, I would like to point out the FDC area. This is the Fire Department Connect. Every school has one. You see them in front of all of the schools. One of the first things that has to be put in for the actual sprinkler system. So there's going to be another vision or a shot of that, but that's what they're actually putting in here. The BMP pond is right here. It's actually gaining momentum to the extent of 2 to 4 feet of clay had to be actually put into the BMP pond for it to actually hold water. And Hardy had enough clay on site that we didn't have to outsource that. There was a huge savings for not having to outsource clay and use the clay that's on there. All right. All right. So this is another overall picture of the actual, we're going to get a closer one in a second, but burying the main electrical conduits. There we go. We get a closer one. It's going to be right about here. They're burying the main electrical conduits. Now, the electrical conduits are the main electrical component that's actually going into the school, that you can see right here. So they're burying those, and it will be GPS located. Anytime someone has to actually run water or anything from that, they can actually use that conduit right there. This is another shot of the compaction process that is going on burying the FDC. And what you're about to see to your left, once it comes up, is a trench box. See that in a second. Now, the trench box is for, I'm about to get there in a second. That's my timeline now. More of the compaction area, covering up the FDC pipes once again. After this is covered up, then they can actually start pouring the slab. This is the trench box. The trench box is actually going to be used for the sanitation lines. These lines have to be buried at least 7 feet deep under the actual slab that makes up the foundation for the actual building itself. So that box is placed in, the workers get inside, work through the process, that is the end of the video, and they stay safe. The walls actually protect from the compaction of the actual dirt. So that's where we actually stand at right now. Once again, I just wanted to emphasize that the staff at Hardy has been extremely flexible with the parking and different things, and coming up with the ideas of how we can actually move forward. So I do want to give them a nice big shout out for the things that they're doing. And that is it for this month.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Coleman.
Thank you.
Okay. What's my next section?
16.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is 16.5, extended school year.
No, 16.1.
Oh.
Sorry.
Where am I?
Strategic plan. Is it on?
Okay, got it. Strategic plan update. Sorry about that, Mrs. Briggs.
That is perfectly fine, Madam Chair. Thank you for having me tonight to present the strategic plan update. I believe we've been giving you an update at every board meeting since the fall, and we just wanted to keep you in the loop as we're getting near the finish line. Just to remind everybody what our process has been with the development, we have used extensive stakeholder engagement. We have had a steering committee. We have had work groups, and those have consisted of parents, students, teachers, support staff. Several of you sitting up there tonight. I know we've had Mr. Cunningham and Mrs. Tynes who have participated. We've also had our school board liaisons, Ms. Sharp, Ms. Harris, and just the other day, Ms. Harris was mentioning to me she's going to be graduating, I think, the day after our June meeting, but she's so... Day before.
The 10th.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And so she is super excited that she'll be here to see the plan adopted, because she said, quote, it's her passion project. I love that this is one of our students saying that this has been their passion project. So I just thought that was very, very impressive. We did have our steering committee meet 4 times in the fall. We had 31 members that made up our steering committee. And this spring, we had work groups that had over 75 people, making up 4 of the groups, who met to develop broad goal statements and objectives based on the work of the steering committee. Recently, we held community forums, April 5th and April 6th, and I will tell you, they were sparsely attended, so I don't know how to take that, but we did have 3 parents staff members. We did have 2 students, although I think they were promised Dairy Queen for attending, so I'm not sure. But we did go through the process and talked to them about how we had gotten to this point. We went through the language, and we had a good, healthy dialogue. We asked them in groups to consider 3 key questions: what they liked about the plan, what questions do they have after reviewing the plan, and how can we make it better? And we also did the same exact thing online for a survey so that we could compare the feedback we got both in person and both online. And that is still on our website, so if people have not had a chance to provide their feedback, they can do so. We are going to convene the steering committee on April 25th. They are going to review that feedback from both the in-person forums and the online survey. We'll present you a draft plan at the next meeting in May. We'll have a public hearing May 18th as required by policy. And then we'll bring the plan with any possible tweaks or modifications based on the feedback we get from the steering committee and the public hearing. We'll bring that to you in June for adoption.
Okay, thank you.
And we have a little QR code, and that's on our attachment. If anyone wants to quickly get to the survey, just pull this up on the agenda tonight, and you can scan that, and it'll take you right there. And I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from Ms. Briggs? Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Briggs.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have CTE Perkins Grant, second read. Mrs. Cowles. Mrs. Cowles, right? Cowles.
Good evening, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Cowles.
Members of the board, Ms. Getz.
Excuse me. Dr. Cales. I like to use your titles.
Thank you. So I am here with the second read of the CTE Perkins Grant. It is an action item. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I ask that you approve the local plan for career and technical education Perkins funds as presented.
Okay, are any questions from Dr. Cale?
Dr. Cale, I do have one question. I read through it. I like it. Are there any intentions to grow any of the courses or adding any new ones in the near future?
Of course. So actually I was going to tell you a little bit about some of that during the next item, the CT update, but we are adding several courses and getting ready to build out a new patient care technician program as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Always looking to add.
I look forward to hearing
Build bigger and better, right?
Good.
Okay. Any more questions? Hearing none, it's an action item, so we need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Perkins Grant as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No discussion? We'll vote. Okay. We now have the Perkins Grant is passed with the 4-0 vote. Thank you, Dr. Cales. Are you up next with the next item?
That's me too.
Okay.
Just stay right here. So a few months back, I think it was February, you asked us about CTE open houses to invite our community out. So in addition to that, I just want to give you a little bit of update about what's been going on in the CTE programs since the last update. So we did hold multiple CTE open houses. We had them scheduled kind of in the same week, and then the weather just didn't play nice with us. So we ended up having one before spring break and one after. It was an opportunity for anyone in the community, but particularly students and parents, to come out and ask questions, learn about different career options, the certifications that are part of each program. And we showcased all of the CTE programs, not just the career academies, though those are the pieces we really want them to explore in terms of trade. We also wanted them to see the options around cybersecurity and programming and engineering. They were well attended. And then because of that, we also added in student tours for any interested student in grades 8 through 11. We did tours from Windsor High School and Georgie Tyler this week, and next week will be tours from students at Smithfield High School and Smithfield Middle School. So we look forward to continuing the robust enrollment. So a few things have been going on. If you're having a bad hair day, not to fear. Our salon is in fact open to the public. So please call and make an appointment on Thursdays. I hear they have great prices and really, really nice stylists there. I've been by and they're doing some great work. Clinicals have begun. Our CNAs are currently completing their clinicals at Riverside right here in Smithfield. And I believe next week is the last week and they'll have accumulated all 40 hours for their clinicals.
Okay.
And Ms. Carter has 100% on that test, so they do a really good job.
Okay.
At the farm, it was Ag Literacy Week a couple weeks back, and so students from pre-K through 3 came out to the farm. They got a story about agriculture and literacy and animals, and then they got to see the animals, and Chartwell's donated some ice cream, so they really enjoyed that at the end.
Okay.
Our FFA continues to lead the way in community service. Recently, and this doesn't, to most people this wouldn't look like a big deal, but they did a disposal of tractor tires. And I was in conversation with a local farmer, and he was telling me this is actually a tremendous cost savings for them, that the disposal of a tire, in addition to the cost of replacing the tire, can cost a farmer anywhere from $200 to $1,000, depending on the size of the tire. So it's a great service to our local ag industry, and it was part of the peanut soil and water conservation. Our horticulture students are putting a little spring in the step at the Windsor Consulate Home. They are creating spring wreaths that are going to be donated to help spruce up and just let the sun shine in with all those pretty flowers. Also in horticulture, they have started on their spring bedding plant sale. Here we have students preparing the beds and outside and in the greenhouse. They'll be selling these bedding plants to teachers and community members. And this is all part of the Grow Your Own Food initiative, so to teach students how to create that garden at home and grow their own food. Something I'm really excited to share, it's official. We have a youth registered apprenticeship that will begin in September 2022. So students, seniors, we're looking specifically at students who are wrapping up Welding 3, will be going to Liaisons. They'll take 2 courses online through Virtual Virginia, and then they'll actually spend 4 days a week at Liaisons earning hours towards their apprenticeship. They'll be paid and treated like employees, and they'll have to apply. So we are really excited to dabble in this area. We told you that Chesapeake was interested in coming to see our facility, and they did come. They brought a very sizable group with them. They got a chance to see every program. You see Dr. Cotton there holding the bunny. I think he really enjoyed that. He might want to take that one home. But they got to see the ins and outs of every program, talk to students, talk to teachers, and then of course at the end they were treated to a culinary delight with Chef Horn and Chef Hagan and their students. And
what was that Dr. Cotton was holding?
Cotton,
oh,
yes,
Cotton.
Dr. Cotton.
Okay, okay.
It is. And that's what I got for you this time. Any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I had a conversation with co-worker, Ms. Dow, and you know, she's in health as well. And she came, you know, she shared a lot of ideas with me. I would just, it's like pretty much a recommendation, not really a recommendation, if the two of you all could get together and sit so she can share some of those things with you, because I think in the health department with CTE, our students could benefit from those.
Absolutely.
It's like open up some areas that I didn't even know about. Okay.
Absolutely. She shared a lot with us when she came to tour the programs, and so we look forward to having her in to speak with students about her experiences. And
because we need to open that health as much as possible, as well as all of the others. And thank you all for the job you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. I did want to add, I told you I was going to tell you, but then I forgot. We are adding floriculture in as a new course for our students in 2022. And then in the fall of 2023, we will be extending the CNA program to include a patient care technician program. And so in the next couple of weeks, I'll be going to different facilities to look and see what they have and how they've built out their spaces so that we can really invest in that. And that will be also funded by the Claude Moore grant.
And before I'm sorry.
No,
Go
please.
on, because she was talking to you first. Go on.
I have had a question from a number of young men around the area about, is there going to be any expansion of the welding program? That seems to be the most popular.
It really, really is a very, very popular program, and I would credit that to Mr. Miller, who's just phenomenal with the kids and in the industry and making connections. We would like to be able to grow that as a more robust program, but I think the best place for us to start is going to be in expanding those internships and apprenticeship opportunities and getting students in earlier so that they can actually build out and be in a job when they leave us, an actual career.
Right, I would definitely agree with that.
So that's where our focus is right now. But yes, we can't produce enough of them to keep up with the demand.
And I know Mr. Collick mentioned young men have been asking him about the program. Do we have any females enrolled in the program, welding program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We do.
All right.
The patient care technician, what is that exactly? Like, what is that going to entail?
So that's part of what we're building out with Claude Moore. It's a conglomerate, so it'll be a partnership with us, Portsmouth, and with Chesapeake, and the three different, so we'll build out that curriculum in conjunction with VDOE, and then we will add, it's a lot of like the original triage kind of stuff that they do just beyond, the next level beyond CNA, but not quite to LPN.
Gotcha. And before Dr. Kells leave, I want to mention that social media is not bad. I just happen to have some friends on social media, and they're in the Portsmouth School District. And they have, well, they're not really the school district government, and they happen to mention their program there. And I sort of picked up maybe some of them were not too happy with it, and you were on spring break. But I reached out to Dr. Thornton, and since then, Dr. Kell, she is arranging something with Portsmouth City Schools to come out to do the tour just as Chesapeake did. And that is a good thing, knowing that right here in our own area, the big city schools are coming over here to us, and we have things to share.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. The next thing we have is the 2022-2023 Special Education Annual Plan, second read. Mrs. Magna.
Hi, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Ms. Getz. Tonight we have the second read for approval, the 2022-2023 Special Education Annual Plan. We had this to you guys, I believe, 2 months ago for information. We've taken the plan to SEAC and out to public for comment, and now we are here again for approval.
Okay, so that's an action item. They're getting there.
Just to approve the plan. I'd like to make a motion to approve the annual plan that was brought to us by Mrs. Magner.
2022-23.
Yes, for
Special Education Plan.
For the 2022-2023 Special Education Annual Plan.
Second.
Second that.
Oh, okay. Mr. Collick, second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Are there any discussions? Hearing none, we will vote. Motion passes with 4 votes. Thank you, Ms. Magna.
Thank you. I actually have the next.
Then right, the extended school year services proposal for summer program.
Yes, and this is for information. This is our extended school year offer for this summer. It will be through essentially the month of July with the exception of Fridays. We run our program in the morning, so you'll notice here the program hours are 8:30 to 12:15. It will be a total of 15 instructional days. Based on previous summers, we do expect about 20 to 25 students, and we guesstimate the need for about 6 teachers and 6 instructional assistants. So,
Okay.
this is for information, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And actually what that plan is about, the program that Ms. Magnum works with, director of, we have students on this individualized special plans. Some of those students, they're not just 10-month students. Their plan is written for 12 months, so we have to extend their school year.
Sure, and these students actually are on the verge, for example, of learning a new skill,
Right.
or data shows that with the break of
Right.
summer, there would be significant regression.
Right.
So each IEPT makes the determination individually whether or not a student would require this need.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
I do have one question.
Sure.
So this goes from July 5th, so day after the 4th of July, so it looks like they're getting about 2 weeks off from the end of school up until when this starts, and then until 28th of July. I don't have the calendar in front of me, I can't find it real quickly. When exactly does school start up again?
September
For them?
8th.
So they're going to be off for about 5 weeks between them? How healthy is that for the most of these kids? I know some kids would be very unhealthy for,
Right.
so I'm just
So-
curious about that.
Absolutely. This is one option for extended school year services. IEP teams can consider things like packets of work that are sent home for the duration of time that the students are not in school. They can consider other options as well. This is one option that typically most of our kiddos do benefit from, and but again, there is flexibility for each student, and that's dependent on the IEP team and what they
Okay.
decide. This
Thank
is
you.
one option that we've traditionally used. And it's actually a lot of fun because it is based out of Windsor Elementary School. So we do a lot of field trip opportunities, I'll call them, to the farm in different ways. We're able to get the kiddos out of the house into a school-based kind of setting and a routine that we try to keep consistent for them. But there are other options available as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions for Ms. Magna? Okay. You have...
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. All right. Next item. Grant approval for elementary tutoring.
This is my item. Thank you. So, Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm really excited to share that the instruction department applied for and received 2 grants. The first one is a before and after school tutoring grant in the amount that you can see. And that one we have begun in the works. I'm going to share a little bit more about that. The unfinished learning grant is the grant that we will begin next school year. And we are in the process of finalizing that, but what it's going to look like is during the school day, we are going to hire tutors to come in and work with small groups of students who have large learning gaps, who are not on grade level, who need extra time on certain skills. It may not be the same students all the time, probably not the same students throughout the year, but students who need that additional attention based on whatever skills that they have not successfully mastered. We are hoping, and this is my big plug out there, that retired teachers will want to come and participate in being a tutor for us. We're looking at about 20 hours a week. We're looking at reading and math tutoring. So crossing our fingers that those retired teachers out there want to come back and help us earn a little money and 20 hours a week. So that'll be, I'll bring more to you about that in the fall.
Okay.
So the before and after school tutoring program in the elementary schools, it's in all 5 of our elementaries. We're focusing on grades 2 through 5. And those students have really been hit hard by the pandemic. 2 days a week at each school. Reading and math skills are being taught. Small group sizes around 10 per teacher. And we're targeting 30 to 50 students at each of those schools. And we really are looking at those students who are just below grade level. So, not significantly years behind. These are students for this program, for the tutoring program, are the students who are just below, who with a little extra push can get on grade level before the summer break begins. And then because, hey, this is way cuter than I am, so just a few pictures of our cute little kids coming. We give them snacks, either before or after school, and try to make it fun. Because they are doing, something more than just the regular school day. So finally, I do ask tonight that this is an action item for you to request from the Board of Supervisors that we appropriate these funds and those amounts, please.
Okay, we need a motion.
You said I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm
You
sorry.
said it was at all the elementary schools?
All elementary schools are doing the before or after school.
So how do you get your child in there? Like, what's the criteria? What do you?
Yeah, so if your student was one who was in that band of just below grade level in math or reading, the teacher would reach out, and we don't have transportation, so that's been a little bit limiting because we did not have the transportation. Our difficulties with transportation. It wasn't a possibility this year. So parents do have to either bring them early or pick them up late if it's an after school. But I would encourage, if anyone is listening and is interested, please reach out to the teacher or the school administration.
Okay, thank you.
So I'd like to make a motion to accept the federal funds under the American Rescue Plan Act for the purpose of addressing unfinished learning and the corresponding allocation of $423,650.67 and before and after school programs with the corresponding allocation of $149,518.69 and authorize the superintendent to request appropriation from the Board of Supervisors.
Okay, we have a motion.
A second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. At this time, we will take a vote. Okay, motion passes with 4. Thank you. All right, are you next up? Let me find, got it.
So before you will see the additions to the superintendent designees, and just as another action item, please.
Yes. You got it?
We're making a motion. So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dr. Christopher Coleman as the superintendent's designee and remove Mr. Michael Lombardo.
And wasn't Mrs. Getz on there as well?
Yes, I'm already on there, as
Okay.
is Mr.
I
Kepnes,
got you.
so
So we
this is
just
just
adding
removing
Mr.
Mr. Lombardo and adding
Okay.
Dr. Coleman,
All right.
yes. Thank
And
you.
if those of you that are not aware, we did this in January at reorganization, but because Mr. Lombardo will be leaving us in July, we have to update this again.
Correct.
And he's leaving us because he's retiring.
He is.
And Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, we need a vote? Motion passes. Thank you. All right. And the next item on the agenda, school board meeting location.
Madam Chair, I believe this is an item that you all were going to discuss tonight about changing the location to West Side permanently.
I thought we had a discussion about it earlier, right? And tonight is the night we bring it to action.
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Are any more discussions on that?
I'd like to make a motion to change the location of the school board meeting to the auditorium at West Side Elementary School.
A second.
We have a motion and a second to change our board meetings permanently to West Side Elementary School. At this time, we will take a vote. Okay, motion passes 4. And I just wanted to say something about that. The reason we're changing it to this building is because you notice up at the courthouse where we would normally have our regular meetings, some nights people could not get in. They had to be on the outside. And west side, if you notice, is comfortable space and everyone can get in here. I know some people on the southern end of the county say, well, you're bringing us down further, but IT is set up here in this building and it's not set up in the buildings on the other end. So this is why we are here at West Side. Thank you. Okay. At this point, we have item number 17.1, personnel report. That is an action item, and this is what we discussed in closed session. And if anyone needs a copy of that report at this time, check with the clerk, Mrs. Ruitt, and she will get you a copy of the report that we discussed in closed session. Action item? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the personnel report as provided.
And put the addendum on it. We had an addendum. Personnel report and addendum.
Oh, and addendum, sorry. The
Okay.
report and the addendum.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to accept personnel report and the addendum as it was presented. If you have no questions at this time, we will vote. Motion passes with 4. Thank you. All right, next, we have adoption of consent agenda, which includes meeting minutes, donations, financials.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as attached and presented.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second to...
Discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there was one item that I believe needs to be changed, and please correct me, Ms. Ruta, if I'm wrong. On March 30th, we've got Mrs. Vanderbreek's concern wasn't community policing, but it was that the anti-police rhetoric on the computer applications make it difficult to teach about community policing. So it wasn't real clear there.
I wasn't at the March 30th meeting.
That was Ms. Jessica.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Mrs., we'll make that correction.
With that correction, I'm fully on board with everything.
so we can say
As amended?
as amended.
Yeah.
As amended. And, Mr. Collick, would you get that?
I'll provide the
verbiage
wording to
Right.
Jessica.
Okay.
So we're going to say, to motion to approve the consent agenda
Agenda.
as amended.
As amended.
As amended. Okay.
So, who wants to do the motion? What she just said. Motion to approve the...
I'd like to make the motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to amend the consent agenda. Approve the consent agenda as amended. At this time, take a vote.
I think we have to rescind it first.
Okay, motion passes with 4 votes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, we have policies for second read. And this is an action item.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the policy KLB as presented.
We have a second?
A second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I'd like discussion.
I'm gonna get to, as soon as I say, I was gonna say it, okay?
You're good.
We have a motion on the floor and a second. for the KLB policies. At this time, are there any discussions?
Yes, Madam Chair. I do have concerns where it says materials shall not be removed because of partisan or doctrinal disapproval. So I do have a question on who will consider a topic partisan. And then if the material of political, isn't the material of a political nature, if it's considered partisan to want it to remove it, it will be just as partisan to want to retain it, just by definition. So political issues, under no circumstances, should be part of the curriculum to start with. So I think the body of that language needs to change.
That's KLB. That's,
I do have one more statement on there. It says it further states, the decision of the superintendent may be appealed to the school board or reviewed at the school board's request. And I'm kind of confused on what that means. And one of my questions, well, my only question is, can the school board deny a hearing on an appeal and just review the information that was provided to the superintendent and make a decision based on that? That was very unclear in the wording. So they're the two concerns that I have with this particular item.
This is a VSBA policy, and so I don't know if PAC wants to add anything else to that, but it is a VSBA recommended policy.
I didn't review, but as a general matter, when there is a vagueness to a policy, it is up to the school board to interpret its own policy. So, I didn't review the policy, so I can't tell you what the policy purports to say, but as a general legal matter, that when there is vagueness, the school board is entitled to a reasonable interpretation of its own policy, so long as it's consistently interpreted.
And if I might add, there is the regulation that was written to go along to try to be more specific about how some of that would happen and take place if it was an appeal.
Yeah, I'm very uncomfortable with the terms, political in there or partisan, because somebody is going to make that determination. For instance, what the ladies have brought up in the last couple of weeks, they could be construed as being partisan because of the content of the apps, when the opposite side that would want the content of the app stayed would be just as partisan. So I'm just not comfortable with any of that wording whatsoever.
okay. We have a motion on the,
Ready to vote?
you have a motion on the table and a second at this time. Thank you, Mr. Collick, for your discussion. We're ready to vote. Okay. Motion passes with 3-1. Thank you. At this time, we have regulations and exhibits. And that will be, is it Ms. Elliott? Who's? Mrs. Elliott, are you doing the regulations and exhibits? It's just up for?
The five-year review.
Okay.
So there was no changes, it's just the 5-year review.
Okay. So it's just information. Thank you.
Yes.
I didn't know if she wanted to speak on it. All right, any discussions about the regulations and exhibits? Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have requests to speak, and this request is for individuals that would like to speak on an item that was not on the agenda. And at this time, Mrs. Ruitt, did you have any sign-ups?
Yes. In accordance with policy BDDH-E, presentations of information on any subject will be concluded at the discretion of the board. No person will be recognized to speak more than once. Citizens scheduled on the agenda to speak will be permitted 4 minutes maximum time for their presentation. Delegations will be requested to limit their speakers to 2. Persons speaking are asked to be specific, state the issues for the board's consideration, and attach a copy of your prepared remarks. If you have prepared remarks, they should be given to the board clerk. Please do not approach board members. Any matter relating to a specific student will be heard by the school board only in a closed meeting. And first, we have Miss Frida Smith. If you just state your name and the district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Frida Smith, and my district is Windsor, I believe. My subject is, I want to talk about your resource officers and their interactions with students and parents in school. Although many are in denial about it, we are living in a tense climate where there is overt and covert discrimination aimed at people of color and other marginalized communities. As a result, anyone working in law enforcement at this time needs to be specifically prepared and trained to deal with the personalities that they may encounter on the job. As a retired probation officer from the state of New York, I watched plenty of my former colleagues abuse their power simply because they had a badge and a weapon. But often the weapon they chose to use was not a gun, it was their mouth, which was often more destructive. During the last school board meeting I attended, there was a discussion about hiring resource officers to be present in every school building. I believe this is a good idea for the safety of our students. However, we need to be certain that the students will not suffer abuse from the officers themselves. I'm not talking about sexual abuse because I am certain that they will be properly vetted for their past criminal behavior prior to their hiring. Yet are they vetted for past physical abuse against civilians? How about past verbal abuse against students in other school districts or where the officer may have been formerly employed? You see, an officer can be trained at an academy to perform police work, but the wrong attitude can create a potentially hazardous environment for our students and or their parents who may present with a wrong attitude themselves. Therefore, it is my hope that all school resource officers will, 1, receive annual crisis intervention training, which will teach them to de-escalate situations before they become a major crisis. 2, receive mandatory cultural awareness and sensitivity training as cultural norms have shifted, and as paid public servants, the school resource officers, whether they agree or not, need to adapt to the changing cultures. 3, they need to spend a certain amount of hours each week engaging with students of color and other marginalized students.
1 minute.
It is my hope that the students will view the school resource officer as someone who is there for their good, rather than someone who is only there waiting for the next opportunity to create further problem in their lives. As we know, many students arrive at school with a host of problems in the home. They are not looking for additional problems when they get to school. Hopefully, the school resource officer will be what their title really is, an officer who maintains peace for all students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams?
I'm sorry, I have teacher ears so I can hear in the back as well. And so I'm just going to do what I normally do is to teach a lesson, just to give some examples.
But you tried to teach me, she just told me I got
Yeah, I told her that she had to get up.
Cool. You need a lesson.
So this is a word from one of my seniors, and I normally, my students, for some reason, I guess they love me so much and they just move up with me. So this is what she said yesterday. So I choose to think and talk about solutions and not assumptions that further draws a line within a division. So what confuses me about the banning of specific pieces of literature as an English teacher is the fact that many of these books that you hear people talking about are focused on only minority authors. But everyone seems to forget about the crime, the punishment, and the questionable themes in the classical texts that we have been teaching for years. The Great Gatsby, Macbeth, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. So everyone seems to forget about a curriculum that has never been diverse. So when I hear people stating that we need to get back to the basics, I think that the basics do not deal with the truth and that our students must face when they enter an unprepared world. So I want us to take a look at 3 words that I think that people kind of make their own connotation for it. With social, emotional, and learning in its singularity. So social means relating to a society, and emotional means relating to a person's emotions. And learning is the acquisition of knowledge and skills through experience, study, or being taught. So here's an example of what I normally do in my classroom. And I'm very selective about what I choose for my students. And I guess my parents, they do trust me as a teacher. Just to be able to choose the text that will be able to relate to his or her experiences. So we read a text called, an excerpt from Crime and Punishment. And so I had some eggs, and I said, well, what are some things that you face within today's society? And so the kids began to speak, and this is what they are saying, not me. So crime, abandonment, societal values, and punishment. So each egg represents a specific thing and a specific emotion. And so on my bowl, it says themes of experiences, because that's what I teach based on the experiences of my students. So one egg, it represents the crime, the abandonment, the societal values, and then the punishment. And I put everything together. And I normally have different things they can add in, because this is the themes from the text that I'm about to teach, but I want to understand their emotions and their moods. So they might sprinkle some parsley that represents their depression or their anxiety, and then what we do, we just mix everything up. And they said, Ms. Williams, what are you doing? I said, I'm mixing up your life so that you could be able to relate it to the text that we're getting ready to read. And so in the crime and punishment text, and you can open that up for me, Mr. Mallory. So it says that he dreamt that the whole world was condemned to a terrible new strange plague that had come to Europe from the depths of Asia. And then the end says all men and things were involved in destruction, but the plague had spread and moved further and further. 1866, and here we are, 2022. History repeats itself. However, we need new strategies so that we can face the new history. So this is an example of one of my students, the crime and punishment. And I do have examples for all the board members, just so you can see.
Oh, shit.
I'm all prepared, sorry. All right, and it's in order. All right, and so they get the text. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, this is what I do at church. Okay, so they get the text, and if you look at the examples within the visual representation, I only teach skills. So I might say, give me the denotation of the word crime.
Madam
And so
Chair.
it's funny because they're talking about all these different things within the text. So if you all have a chance, I'm sorry, I know I'm running out of time, but if you look at the different posters that's there, they all represent something different because it's based on their experiences. So social emotional learning may not look like what you think that it looks like. In my classroom, it looks different. So don't be fooled by misinterpretation and non-factual information.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Next is Miss Martha Jackson. Yeah, I know.
want to speak on togetherness, board togetherness. We're all in it together. Contrary to many academic leadership gurus, we should not focus on what a person thinks. We should care about the behaviors a person exhibits. Several comments made at the public hearing for a new superintendent, 19 April 2022, spoke to what we want versus what we need. Wants are like gifts. Needs are must-haves. If we want the same things, there has to be some give and take. Some can't have it all, and the others don't have any. Authentic conversation and working together have results that parents, students, and the community can see that is meaningful and impacts learning. It's just difficult, though. We're working on it, though. If we work on it, we get better at it. What can be offered as an antidote to the often hyperbolic and divisive speech found in today's conversations? Our community, as well as other communities, have been engulfed in too much divisiveness. We play the blame game. You did that. I did this. Me. I want what I want. Threats, hateful emails. All of this back and forth meaningless stuff. For a start, how about we speak to each other when we enter these types of sessions? The chair, for example, the chair starts to speak. Some begin to murmur loudly in disagreement or giggling like little schoolgirls or athlete jokesters in a locker room. Were you not taught better? I call that immaturity at its finest. There are some stark differences in the way we approach certain values. A critical component is there is a virus out here that's even more powerful than the coronavirus. It is the virus of hatred, prejudice, injustice, and discrimination. Please prove me wrong. There are people who want to construct and build and make our schools a better place. And then there are those who want to destroy our schools just for not liking who is in charge. More student perspectives, leaders in education, and civic organizations need to address inequities, plan events to bring opposing sides and points of view together. No one bent to one side. There are different ways to achieve the same goal. Juxtapose the mission. Let's be about what is possible and not wrong. It's spring cleaning time. Clean out the unkindness. Tear it up and toss it away in this wastebasket. Here are the kindness things. Let's keep them close to our hearts. The board is not supposed to be a self-seeking serving power. Setting traps for others is a dangerous job. Let's work on it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Laura Fletcher.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I just want to interrupt. The streaming service just overheated in the back. So we're still recording, but the live stream is cut off for the moment. We're trying to cool it down.
Okay.
Just wanted to make you aware.
Okay. Ms. Laura Fletcher. Are you good? Okay. Herb DeGroff.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Herb DeGroff, the Carsville District. I didn't move, but the district line moved me. It's a pleasure to see Mr. Pack here tonight, Madam Chair, because I wish he had been here for a couple of the previous meetings. Otherwise, that little note I tried to give you at one of those previous meetings about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights relative to freedom of speech that evidently your associate, Ms. Dial, needed to check on and took it. Mr. Pack could have made sure that you didn't violate Mrs. Vanderbreek's and Mrs. Swartz's constitutional rights to freedom of speech and freedom of expression on how they made their presentation. And it was really nice to hear Ms. Getz say that Westside Elementary is set up to do all this Wi-Fi stuff, et cetera, that Mr. Cooprider and his group do so well here. Yes, they could have made their PowerPoint presentations, but the puppet master didn't want the rest of the citizens in Wight County, particular parents of students, to see what some of their children can access on the devices that are given to them by Wight County Schools. And then Ms. Getz made a comment a little while ago about teachers and staff being able to relate to the standards of quality and standards of learning. Thank you, Susan, because you hadn't done it for the last 6.5 years, and we had to spend another $65,000 to buy Hampton City Schools aligned curriculum, because we hadn't had it since sometime in 2015. Tough. In any case, I think you're probably going to see somebody in court, Madam Chair, because once again tonight, the ventriloquist, who is now remote, that helps your mouth move sometimes, you made a comment earlier that the superintendent at the Board of Supervisors meeting, well, he wasn't there between 6 and 6:30 when I was there. And the lady that just came back from there, who was sitting there with Melita and Candace behind me, I just asked her when she came up to say something to Cindy, had the superintendent showed up there? He's AWOL, absent without leave, because he's not at the Board of Supervisors meeting per her. Your CFO's there to go over the budget as the Board of Supervisors might need to. Madam Chair, you made the announcement earlier. Is there anything in closed session? I still want to do the closed session on the thumb drive. Michael Cunningham, where are you? You can do Zoom or by telephone, because back in my time on the school board, I made a trip back from Florida early to make a school board meeting, and when I had cataract surgery, I participated by telephone. So Michael, unless you're dead or mentally incompetent, you could be here by telephone, at least. So knock off these stupid excuses for not being here.
1 minute.
So Madam Chair, once again, the forked tongue is trying to get through that mask, just like when you told me back in January when I brought up about the multiple violations of policy and Virginia school law by this superintendent. You told me I ought to do it in closed session, and then when I wanted to do it in February, you told me I couldn't. That's a forked tongue. Straighten out, because guess what? We're all going to see St. Peter someday, and you want him to give you a long-handled number 9 coal shovel? Thank you.
Derek Boone. I think Derek Boone, I think he might have left. He left.
It's not here.
Okay. David Adams.
Appreciate that. Good evening, David Adams from the Windsor District. Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, central office staff, and my fellow citizens. I watched in awe tonight and on Tuesday night as 2 of the board members voted not to remove applications that allow elementary school children access to material discussing sexuality. These resources are not geared toward helping promote language or mathematical literacy, but instead focus on social ideas and theories. Parents send their children to school to prepare them for a successful future by learning to read and think critically, not to watch them become indoctrinated with the views of the far right or far left content creators. I've worked in the IT field for 24 years and have held positions from IT help desk to consultant on one of the largest public networks in the world. I've witnessed system and network administrators attempt to limit or restrict the material that employees and guests can access from their work computers. All these attempts have failed, mostly because there is an allow and then deny approach to filtering content. I'm sure that Mr. Cooprider and his staff can speak to the challenge of staying ahead of every possible inappropriate website. Forgive me if this is technical, I'll try and simplify it. If you walk into a coffee shop or a restaurant these days, chances are they have a wireless network that is available for customer use. This network should, if set up properly, allow users to access the internet according to what the proprietor deems as acceptable. Obviously, this is subjective. Some businesses owners will take an active role in filtering it, while others will offload that responsibility to the manufacturer of that device. People are resourceful and find ways to circumvent restrictions. They will use virtual private networks, proxies, distributed networks such as Tor to navigate around controls that have been put in place to prevent individuals from accessing restricted content. Our children, having grown up in the internet age, are technologically savvy. They or their friends are aware of how to change the ending of a website from .com to .vip or to .co to access those to circumvent those restrictions we put in place. If your children know what the site Omegle is, you should have a conversation about talking to strangers immediately and block that site however you can. Sexual predators use that site all the time. I know this is sounding very doom and gloom, but it's not meant to. I am a technophile. You can ask my wife, my family, my friends. I believe that technology and the availability of information is a net positive for society. But in the case of our children, 2 members of this board have voted to promote unfettered access to materials that parents find inappropriate and well beyond what should be the focus of public schooling. I asked the board, the central office staff, to consider taking an opt-in approach
1 minute.
as opposed to the opt-out modus operandi currently in place. Give parents the first right of refusal on what their child sees. My son is a 5th grader at Windsor Elementary. My wife and I do not allow him to have technology in his bedroom, and any visits to YouTube, Rumble, etc. are done in the family room so that we can monitor to the best of our abilities. 2 days ago, while waiting for me to pick him up from school, he used his school-issue laptop to browse the internet. He came out, got in the car, we had our customary, "How was your day, buddy?" To which he responded, "It was good, Dad." "What's thirsty mean?" I asked him where he heard that. He replied, "I was watching YouTube while waiting for you." My question to you is this. When my son's in my custody, it's my responsibility to monitor what he's doing. When he's at school with school-issued devices, whose responsibility is it? Thank you.
All right, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank all of you for coming out and voicing your opinions. Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to item board members' requests and comments. Are there any board members' requests and comments?
So I would like to say, I'm not promoting anything. You have 2 options, not to take the iPad, the device, and you can provide your child with their device with your own stuff on there, or you can have it taken off. That's my stance on that. And in regards to Mr. Cunningham not being here, I hope you feel well. He just had surgery today, actually. So I hope he really feels well. I think that's very insensitive for somebody to say, "Oh, you could be on the phone." Matter of fact, I just talked to him before I got here. He could barely even talk because he was under. He had surgery. So he really couldn't even talk. So, Mr. Cunningham, I hope he's not even, he said he wasn't even going to be watching because he's resting. So I'm glad that he's resting. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Sure. So this board derives its authority from you, the people. We all know that. We've got disagreements on these apps, but 2 people who probably disagree with me on virtually everything have said something to me today, one via email, one here tonight, that I think makes more sense than what anybody else has said over the past 6 months. Why do we not have committees of parents, teachers, administrators looking at this to make a determination as what is best for the individual children at the individual schools? I think that is where we need to be. And there's actually a state law that gives that authority to the school board to have those types of committees. So I don't understand why we don't have such things. Now, There's also been, over the last few meetings, people coming in and making comments about working together as a board. We've had people come in making comments that the board doesn't listen to anybody. We come in, we speak, we go home. Since January, I've been keeping a list of the comments that people make. And those action items, things that can be action items that we should be talking about, I'm not saying they should all be approved, but I'm saying they all should be talked about. I've sent to all the board members. I've sent to the chairwoman asking for them to be on various agendas. None of them have yet been placed on any agenda. But I agree with you folks. As a school board, we need to be working together, not coming in here and talking past each other. We should have working meetings where we talk to each other. We discuss these items in detail. I guarantee if we were behind closed doors talking about the apps, I'm not going to say the outcome would have been different, but we would have had a more in-depth conversation. And I think that's what we're missing here. So I really pray and I hope that we can start anew and we can work together. And that means having work sessions and coming together. And every school board member has the same rights to have things put on the agenda so that his or her constituents can be heard. And for everybody that comes up and speaks, for many of you, I know it's hard. I get a lot out of it, believe it or not, whether we agree or disagree. There's always something that I agree with from virtually every speaker that comes in, and I learn something at every single one of these meetings. And I appreciate that. But we've got a long ways to go. We do have one of the best school systems in this area, bar none, okay? We've got to make sure it stays the best in the area. And I'm just one that I don't like the sexually explicit materials, the anti-police materials. I just don't like them out there for the younger kids. And there could be an argument made that for high school level kids, some of this stuff, should be out there in social studies and things like that. I don't necessarily agree with that, but you know what? I've had my mind change over lesser things. So again, I appreciate everybody coming out to these meetings, especially the last two nights. And please, continue with your input. You don't know how much it helps with at least my decision of how I'm going to look at things. God bless you all and have a good night.
Excuse me, I would like to address something that you mentioned, Mr. Collick, about me refusing to add the items that you wanted on our school board agenda. And I'm going to address it because the school board meetings, regular meetings, is about doing business for Wight County Schools. The things that we need to take place, the business items we need to take place to run our school from month to month. The items that you presented to me, as well as Dr. Thornton, all of them were EOs with the different numbers, executive orders coming from the governor. And I did tell you, if those executive orders came down as a mandate, then we will put them on our agenda and we would discuss them, because at that point, they will become business of Wight County School. Until then, those executive orders are the executive orders of Governor Youngkin's, and they will be addressed on Governor Youngkin's agenda. And that's what I told you. And I'm finished with that. Anyone can address me with anything, any business that we need to put on our agenda, that we need to do for the running of Wight County Schools. Whether it's instructional, maintenance, or whatever. But the executive orders, CRT, we had already addressed it last year. That's not happening in our school system. We just can't keep on dwelling on things that are not happening. And as your board chair, I was not going to continue to put these items on there to bring divisiveness in our community. I'm bringing the community to get the community together. I want us to come together. But putting certain items on there that you wanted, it's not going to do that, because it's only going to bring an argument, and it's only going to bring separation. Like I said, as soon as we get mandates from Richmond, we will address them. Until then, it will not be addressed while I'm board chair. Thank you. And if anyone address that, yes, I'm the chair. And we get, the superintendent and the chair get to decide what items going on the agenda for each month. Thank you. Anything else to come before the board tonight?
I'm going to say one thing before we close.
I got you.
I just wish that the public would be respectful and have compassion when we do have a board member that's sick, that's very serious. Some of the crude and rude remarks that was made was very insensitive tonight. You know, health is not promised to us. You don't know when it's going to be you tomorrow. When you cast your stone at someone else, there may be one coming right back at you. And I ask that you please keep Michael Cunningham in prayer if you know how to pray. You can't condemn people to hell 1 minute and say you're a Christian the next minute. You know, you all have come at me for using Bible verses, but yet some of you come here and quote Bible verses and call on the name St. Peter. But I understand if you're serving St. Peter, where you're going anyway. Thank you.
Okay. We're listening. We'll get comments now and recommendations from our student.
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Neely Harris. I'm the student rep from Smithfield. Unfortunately, I can't speak on Windsor tonight, but clearly they're doing something right if they're winning states for forensics. But at Smithfield, debate is competing for their 6th straight state championship this weekend. And our jazz band has a concert on the 28th at 7, and they're doing some assessments this week as well. And then one of our seniors, Taylor Price, broke Smithfield's 2-mile school record with a time of 9 minutes and 41 seconds and qualified for either regionals or states. And then boys soccer is playing, I think their game probably just finished up. They played against Menchville tonight, and then girls play tomorrow at Menchville. So, right on time. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Are you getting ready for graduation? Tell us some of the things you all are doing for graduation.
Okay.
Prepare.
So we have prom on May 14th, and then we have a senior awards night May 16th. So it's when we all get our stoles and all the cords and everything. And then I think that along with that week, the ladies wear their white dresses and the boys wear their nice outfits, and we wear our cords and stoles, and then we do a college day where we all wear our college shirts, and I think that's it. I think that's all that's on the agenda right now. And then graduation's coming up, so.
Which college shirt will you be wearing?
I'll be wearing Virginia Tech.
Okay. If there's nothing else to come before this Wight County School Board tonight, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming out and safe travels.